morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Create Roots Ministries service for soil and soul this Sunday. I'm Reverend M, one of the founders of Creative Roots Ministry. We are a non-denominational ministry. I am a non-denominational minister, and I'm here to welcome you today and to say thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for watching. We see you, we appreciate you, and we are so grateful for the gift of your presence here today. Creative Roots Ministry is showing up for all people and all planets to help you remember and reconnect you to who you were before the world told you who you were supposed to be. You know, we are showing up as an act of service because we're encouraging you to stay curious, that curiosity of a child. We're encouraging you to be open and open up to the possibility there is way more to life than what your limitations would like you to believe. You didn't put those limitations there. So we believe in the one people, the one society, the one universe. We believe in the one love which lies beneath all that there is, the one love that accepts you and appreciates you right now, right here and right now as you are. We're joining together through our community today to focus on our expanding awareness. And we're going to evolve for the highest good. We're living intentionally for the one life and the one love that connects us all. This is not a religious service. This is all about coming back to who we are. Today's theme, and not just for today, it's for this week, is betrayal to balance. And I'm all about balance. And we all need balance in our lives. And where things can seem off, it's usually due to an imbalance somewhere in the system. And that's probably why they say in permaculture, the problem is the solution. Wherever something seems a bit off, it's easy enough to put it back when we realise what it was causing the imbalance in the system. On my morning walk before I left Creative Roots a couple of days ago, I saw the neighbours had dumped their barrows, many barrows. There's about 6 barrowfuls of compostable green wastes in my car park where we park our cars. And I got angry. And I thought, why? Like, when I've said already, just stop, please stop dumping your stuff there. We can use it. Like, if you don't want to keep it, we can use it. Why do they carry on? Then I spent the rest of the walk tying myself up in knots because of it. You know, not this, not that, not them, not there. I know that you know because we all go there, right? So my usual morning walks meditation, which I have every morning, became a buzz of acknowledging the anger. And it was like, I was like, whoa, because I realized my mind was taking over, and I took a breath. And I thought, just don't ignore or suppress, but allow it to process. And then I could feel the anger, really feel it, and watching the thoughts in the mind. And as I was watching what's popping up into the mind's eye, as I'm walking, I'm like, whoa, look at the aggression in that. Look at those solutions. Where are these solutions coming from? That's not a solution. It's from a limited state of awareness. Because thinking that they don't care. Who am I to say what someone else thinks? You know, thinking my clients don't want to see that. Yeah, I've got a point. But I don't know, you know, is going to think it's me. And I don't have time to clean that up. Well, maybe I could. I was in survival. It felt threatened. Myself, my livelihood, my home, I felt threatened. And when I moved my arms and I moved my body and I allowed it all to just play out, like a strange dance as I walked, you know. I guess I might have looked a bit strange, but it didn't really matter. It was me and the dogs, and really, I don't actually care what people think about. If they got a problem with me dancing, then that's their problem, and my problems, you know, I'll be seen in public. So, as I walked, I was like, I had this thought, they are not taking responsibility. And oh, that was the shift that brought me back right home to myself. I tell you. And I asked myself an empowering question, like, how can I take responsibility? Because, like, if they're not taking responsibility, whoa, 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 how am I not taking responsibility? What am I doing? How can I learn? How can I grow through this? How can I let go of thinking it's my job to get them to change? People will be people. It isn't my job to educate anyone. It's my job, like my place on this planet, is to educate by leading by example. You can't educate someone through righteousness. It doesn't work, you know. I've grown up in a household, many of us have, where everything was all about being right and righteousness. Did it work for you? Do you know what I mean? Where do we see when people insisting they're right is right? So I never knew anyone who looked good or achieved great things by insisting they were right. And like Ram Dass says, I'd rather be free than right. And I think of that very often, you know, if I catch myself being caught up in knots, I'm like, whoa, I'd rather be free than right. Take a breath. And I recognized to date through doing what I do and simply being here and being present, where, believe me, people watch from a distance, but they watch. Like, what's that lady doing there in the field? Wow, this is a bit interesting. People, we all contain curiosity, and I do, and they do. And as I do me, I'm living peacefully, I'm calm, I'm loving life, I'm appreciating nature, and I nurture all of life here. People start asking questions, you know. They start doing things differently, watching me and having a go at them themselves, like the new ways of doing things, and it's beautiful. It's slow, it's gentle. It's about them doing them and me doing me. There's no conflict, no manipulation. I started processing their stuff for them. As in, I started like last year, I started taking things and turning it into things. And every so often they'll come and I'll say, come, it's okay, come and see. And I'll show them and they can see the little veg bed, well, the herb bed that's been grown and that's been developed because of what they gave to me. You know, before when I'd had chickens here, they brought one of their chickens to me. We don't know what to do with it. Will you have it? And I took it in and gave it a home and it was fine. And they were like, why is it no problem now? I said, its problem was it needed some more women. It needed its space. It's got what it needs now. It's a very happy, like, cockerel. And they were like, wow. Because he was scared of it. He brought it all tied up. It just needed space, like we all do, you know? And this way, we help each other out. It's a win-win. It's connecting through community. Everyone wins. Even Andy, our strimmer guy, he said, everywhere that I'm working, it's brown already. He said this like a week ago. He goes, your place is still green. And I said, it's simply because I work with. I co-create with life here. I practice what I preach, like I do human manure composting, which I teach through Udemy, free. I live intentionally with what I do and how I do it. Creative Roots Project supports biodiversity. It isn't what I want to do for my life, but it's about what can I do for. It's about bringing back that balance. You know, For those who know me, I practice karma yoga, which means I watch my thoughts. I watch my thoughts so that it changes how I act and behave in the world, so that they're in alignment with what's best for highest good, according to the best information I've got at the time. Which means when I do something, I think, well, what effects my behavior, my thoughts, my actions going to have on the world outside of me? And when seeking answers like this mess that I found outside my driveway, I caught myself looking outside of me for answers. I caught myself tying myself in knots. Now, we all do this. Like we look out outside at the world and we're like, man, like, and then we try and find an answer. And it's not often the way to do it. Let me explain. Because as soon as I caught myself, it enabled things to process, to allow me to come back to myself and center, taking responsibility for what I think and change things so I don't go down rabbit holes and I don't cause conflict. And it's so much more balanced, you know. I stopped the fear of falling out. I could have taught myself into it if I'd have carried on. The thoughts that our limitations can create is unreal. And that's why I don't use artificial intelligence. AI provides answers that reduce my capacity to think for myself, to research ethical resources, to feel into what's balanced. And that's why we have this absolute intelligence. We all contain absolute intelligence. It's absolutely phenomenal. This is our natural GPS. It never takes me the wrong way. It helps me stay in integrity. I return to my life's principles and I follow the universal law. I come back to my practice. And from here, I naturally return to my own rhythm and my own balance. When I create these services like the ones that I'm sharing every week, and I stop and I meditate, I identify patterns outside of me, and I notice what's caught my attention in the world. And then I share through service, because what I'm experiencing in the world is just the same as what we're all experiencing in the world. There's a lot of global things going on, you know, and I share what I feel can help for the highest good. So I'm not trying to push anything on. I'm sharing that maybe there's another way, maybe there's another thought, maybe there's another perspective. I know we all experience similar solutions and similar situations that we all navigate through our lives. But what appears to be an incredibly challenging time globally, actually, it really isn't so bad when we come back to ourselves. As a trauma and grief specialist, I feel so much, and I bear witness to so much suffering. And it's my honor to do so. It's my honor to support people walking through really difficult times. Because for me, those who've got the courage to dare to discover self-development, I totally admire that courage. You know, I see that courage. I know what it takes to become more. And the thing is, as soon as we start looking at ourselves, it always leads to more, not more bad stuff and not more imbalance, but more opportunities, more possibilities, and more potential. It opens us up to life. And in what can appear like an impossible world, people find their I'm possible. And their I'm possible makes the world so much brighter and lighter a place to live in. You know, the past is only a gift to the present when we learn from it. It's not something that we should be reliving and getting caught up in knots. So I consider, how did we get from our imbalanced way with life to experience so much imbalance and disconnection? And from my research, which I've looked into for a considerable amount of time, what I've found was we'd stopped seeing ourselves as sacred. Like, I am sacred, you are sacred, we are all sacred, so we should be sacred together. And there was a time of life we used to be sacred together and honor that sacredness in all beings, like the namaste. Namaste means I'm honoring the light in you that's also in me, you know. Awesome. We forgot that we're interconnected with life, you know, but through the World Wide Web, right use of technology, the web's more prominently now showing us how we're interconnected with everything. We can find out in seconds something that happens like the other side of the globe. So it's more obvious to us than it ever has been how attached we all are. And it's easy to see where we get tangled up and caught in the web. Life's just like that, you know, when people start into those social media scrolling and get themselves upset and start arguing, you know, we're like, whoa, they're tangled. How can I not get myself caught up in that? Many moons ago, we knew that life moved through cycles. Some of us still say it, things like the cycle of life. And for maybe around 10 to 50,000 years, the divine masculine and divine feminine were acknowledged and honored in all things. They was in balance. And in this cycle, which makes complete sense when we look to nature, everything is a balance between masculine and feminine, not genders, but energies. There's masculine energies of, you know, and feminine energies. And if I go down that rabbit hole, we'll never come out for hours. So I best like keep to it. But I'm going to come back to just pointing out the moon, which was prominent in all aspects of life. The moon represents feminine energy. It represents cycles of change and emotional and intuitive aspects of life. It's associated with motherhood, intuition, and subconscious. The moon's phases symbolize different stages of life and growth. A new moon represents new beginnings. The full moon signifies completion and maturity. We used to use it for planting and tending to our gardens on a much wider scale, but we still do here in Portugal. They have the borda d'água, and that is all about how we can use the months and the moons and things to plant and tend to our gardens. Such a beautiful thing that's still here today. You know, it's not about pushing away the masculine. It's about embracing the masculine, embracing the feminine energies in ourselves. It's all sacred. You can't have one without the other. We need both to exist. Both are of equal importance. So right up until around 2000 BC, which was around 4,000 years ago, it was when we slowly moved into the cycle of the Great Father. It's when Judaism came about, and then we got Christianity and Islam in that order, from what I can understand. There was clearly a separation from our relationship with life, with our true nature, our true balance. And I wondered, how can that be, you know? Because these things are all about love. There's love in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, so much love. So what happened? What happened? What took us away? Because nature all of a sudden wasn't seen or recognized as sacred anymore. It turned out that the goddesses had vanished around this stage in history. Certain temples, they completely vanished. And in almost all religious systems, apart from Hinduism, the goddesses had just vanished completely, leaving us with the one God as a single masculine deity. There was a time where writing in this period, writing came into being. People started to learn to write. And when we started to learn to write, it moved us from our right brain. And we can see how, like, we experience our life through sensing and feeling and things through the right side of our brain. And this writing, so our writing comes from the left side of our brain, which is the logical side of the brain. It's logical, it's goal orientated. So around that time, we've moved into this from the right side of our brain into the left. And instead of being balanced between feeling and being and holding our own space, like just holding the capacity to listen to other people, we become more and more detached from that. Now, we used to have that capacity when we sat around the fireside as Indigenous peoples. So we became about power over people. And this has been very much the pattern for like 4,000 years. Turns out in history as well, in 623 BC, I'll put a link in for you all, there's a king called Josiah who ordered some Deuteronomists to take over a temple of the goddess Asher. And there was connections to this temple because Yahweh, who we believe is Jesus, was supposed to have married someone in this temple, which was very likely Mary Magdalene. So from what I can see, I've not looked into it really deeply, but I'll put the links in here for you. They completely went on to erase 5 books of the Old Testament in the Hebrew tradition. And the only place that type of thing, that information, remained was in the Kabbalah. Christianity came after this time in history where things were erased. So Christianity never knew it, therefore didn't know. So it didn't share it. It didn't say that Jesus had a wife. And people somehow turned Mary Magdalene into the prostitute and an impure face of the feminine. It's bizarre, isn't it? But this is what people do when they're thinking out off balance and they can't see and they're not willing to be open to what actually is there. So you can understand how we've been influenced for generations through consequences of others' actions. And it isn't an easy jigsaw to complete because obviously we've got some pieces missing. Today we're in a Hindu Kali Yuga cycle. Now the Yuga cycles are all about awareness, and it predicts 4,000 year transits. Now we can either, it's an interesting coincidence, maybe, or it might be true. We don't know. But it's funny how this Yuga cycle of Kali Yuga cycles just coming to the end. Kali's all about ego and all about us and being in self and power over, so that we can get to meet ourselves. Kali takes off people's heads in the Hindu tradition. She feeds them to themselves. She takes away all our troubles so we can come back to ourselves and our true awareness, levels of awareness. She helps us clear the condensation. And at the moment, we're in our lowest level of awareness where we're disconnected or have been disconnected from source. We're now returning to source and center. Let's look at the world around us because we can see power plays playing out. And we can kind of see that, taking that into account and looking at the other evidence in the world that things have happened in 4,000 year transits. Or certainly this last lot has. And we can see there's disconnection. And we know disconnection happens because of trauma. And we can see through societal belief system like Darwinism's theory of evolution that it's about survival of the fittest was a belief system. He was all about the biggest and strongest survive. It's not always that way, but people started to believe this, and this has carried on for quite a while now. Sigmund Freud's masculine psychology has affected us incredibly because they dismissed the Jungian stuff. Today, we're coming back to realize Carl Jung had a point. He had many points, and he had a really beautiful way of seeing things and explaining things. Notice, fear leads us to seeking safety. People who live from a state of belief, thinking the world happens to me, right, try to take control over. So, for instance, we've got Trump in the USA. His fears are playing out. He wants to be bigger and stronger and better. We've got Putin in Russia, and he's worried about other things. He's got himself tied into knots about not this, not that, not the other, and therefore I need to be bigger and stronger and take over more land and, you know, get more money. He's got loads of money, but that money isn't doing him any favors right now because he's not using it in the right way. They're trying to be bigger and stronger. They're trying to assert their power. Who knows what's going on in Keir Starmer's head and his weapons and his focus, like nuclear weapons. Why do we want that in the world? But again, he's coming from a place and state of fear. Brexit, another mess created from people fearing their safety. All global conflicts as someone trying to meet their needs because they don't feel safe. They feel threatened in some way. And they feel they have to have power over to control and to make the way through things. We are living a lot of the time in survival. And if you think that sounds a bit dramatic, we are living in some respects in a contracted state of being, living on autopilot where our mind's taking over and running the show. And we're not in control of even our thoughts. You know, think of how many things we do in the day where we've not actually got to think about it, like walking. You don't have to think about where you put your feet in front of each other. You don't have to think about how you breathe, you know. So there's a lot of things we do and how our mind can go, and until we recognize what our mind does, that mind is affecting the language in our head. It affects how we think and how our bodies act and how we can react with other people around us. Everything we see began with a thought. So we have limited awareness, you know, many of us do, and we're disconnected because of the trauma of feeling threatened, because we want to survive, you know. And to move through this, we need to recognize our power through people rather than the current power over people paradigm. Fear leaves us betraying what feels right so we can be accepted and survive. It isn't the case when we remember and return to the reverence and sacredness of life. When I come back to myself, I come back to balance. My prefrontal cortex comes online. It's science. I'm not in survival. I'm at peace. I'm responding to life. I feel love, you know, not lust, but love, gratitude, appreciation for whatever is. And I'm seeing the beauty in the world. I experience joy for no reason. I think, wow, you know. And I notice that I don't need to struggle to survive, you know. It's amazing. A lot of people now that, like, look at all the addictions in the world, the people on caffeine, the people drinking coffee, the people smoking, the people drinking alcohol. This is all happening because people are looking for ways to bring themselves up. You know, there's a difference, isn't there? Everything in balance. We don't need the drugs. We don't need to intoxicate ourselves to bring back balance. We can do it naturally, but it's a slow, steady process. And surely we'll get there when we try. It's daring to be. It was an old belief system. It's our old BS playing out. So we can bring back our balance. Now, as early as Paleolithic times, when we weren't as advanced as we are today, you know, we recognized the miracles of life, just had different ways of doing things. We're more connected to what is, like consciously connected. We had a larger, wider state of awareness in many ways. And indigenous cultures have survived. They've survived where the righteousness didn't try to go and fix them. They retained absolute intelligence, passing down that knowledge. Where the righteous went, there are still signs. We've got to be like archaeologists. Look for the remains scattered, still present today, right across the globe. Mother Earth still holds on to these stories so we can find them and come back to ourselves. Indigenous peoples, Indigenous peoples, they still retain that right brain ways of being, you know. They honor the life that birthed us and raised us. They honor the divine Mother Earth. They honor the dance of life between Shakti and Shiva, you know. Someone said to me recently, Shakti is the dance of life around the pole that's Shiva. And I thought, well, maybe Shiva is like this great Earth's axis that holds Earth steady as Earth, Divine Mother. She's flowing around it. Like, wow, you know, even the moon's flowing around the Earth's flow. And we're all moving together, interconnected, like the sun and the moon. It's all amazing. Papa Inti, maybe we're moving around the sun or the sun's moving around us, whichever way we look at it. It's that masculine Papa Inti, Father Sun, Mother Moon, Mother Earth. There's that balance, that divine balance, communing and collaborating with the masculine and the feminine wisdoms. It's truly marvelous when you look at it, and you can get gender and put it in the it bucket and come back to reality, you know. We've all got it. We're all masculine and feminine energies. So where they, the indigenous peoples, they hold, they know the power that we hold as individuals. They recognize karma, which is basically the effect our actions have on the world. War doesn't come into their awareness, and it doesn't come into ours when we recognize and remember and reconnect with the sacred relationship that is life. Coming back to now, the gift of the present, to the potential that we have in this here moment, acknowledging the gift of the past where it's time to return balance, integrating, reuniting the sacred masculine and feminine, like in ourselves and in each other. It's just like, it gets me excited, you know. I want to acknowledge today our societal suffering, our intergenerational suffering and pain that's been passed down for generations, the heartache we feel, the separateness that we endure. And I want to acknowledge that by speaking it and making it space right here and right now. Also to acknowledge our own blame and our own shame and our own guilt. Don't worry, we're not going to stay there. When we recognize these things, it doesn't knock us out of balance. It doesn't make anything negative. We need both. Just bringing in these words from Brené Brown because they're helpful. They help you recognize something. She says, I believe guilt is adaptive and helpful. It's holding something we've done or failed to do against ourselves, against our values, and feeling psychological discomfort. I define shame as the intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we're flawed, sorry about the glare, and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. Something we've experienced, done, or failed to do that makes us unworthy of connection. She says, I don't believe shame is helpful or productive. In fact, I think shame is more likely to be the source of destructive, hurtful behavior than the solution or cure. I think the fear of disconnection can make us dangerous. And that's Brené Brown. And I need to speak to that for a moment because there is nothing that isn't helpful or productive when you follow something like karma yoga, or you just follow the finding your own truth. Yeah. Doesn't need a fancy name. But when you recognize something inside you that you're not particularly happy about, especially things that cause so much issues like shame and blame and guilt, we can use them as like a signpost. It's like a signpost in our mind that says, whoa, you know, Let's come back to myself a minute. What's this really trying to say here? Yes, the disconnection can make us dangerous. Anything that isn't connected or enabling us to allow connection, safe connection, can be dangerous. And it can't be safe if we're not able to fully be open to the moment and see and hear each other. We know we can always come back home from there. It takes a little love and compassion. There is many different belief systems, but many different things that we can do, whether it's science, whether it's psychology, whether it's spirituality. And the commonality in all of them is that with a little love and compassion, we just return home to ourselves. And I love that. And that's what's just fantastic. As Dr. Hugh Len said, now Hugh Len, the shaman, never really called himself a shaman, never called himself anything really. He taught the Ho'oponopono. He was one of my teachers, and he said, blaming is bullshit. I'd never heard a teacher say that. I was like, whoa. And it's stuck ever since. I catch myself blaming. I'm like, whoa, you know, and it makes me think of like, or brings to mind betrayal. And that feeling of being betrayed by family, by religion, by society, by educational systems, by governments, by friends. But don't worry, because we're growing through this together, growing through this, not going. Stop passing back your power. We're right here and right now. Stop giving them your power. It doesn't help you. You know, what's power? It's that thing that helps you feel strong. And betrayal, the only betrayal more painful than that of being betrayed by another is when we betray ourselves. We often betray ourselves by being quiet and losing our voice and neglecting ourselves in some way. So I'm going to invite you today to think about things being passive. Passive, not as walked over. We need to stop that. Being walked over, being a doormat does not work. It's a practice that we've practiced for long enough. It's time to be passive. In the Hindu tradition, passive's totally different. It's embracing a feminine essence of being passive and waiting patiently. And while we wait patiently, we're retaining our power through purpose. We're contemplating, coming back to our center. And it's here where we can live life on purpose from a more centered, aware place. It's here where we're holding all of our power, because passivity brings us back to a peaceful state of being. It empowers you to make conscious choices and live a life in alignment with your truth. Like, it's so brilliant. So passivity can, when we do it intentionally, we're like, okay, stop, take a minute, breathe, you know, stop tying yourself in knots, not this, not that. Because when you do, you compare yourself to what you think you're not in others and what they're not in you. You are not another person. You never will be. They are other people. You know, don't expect them to be something they're not. You are you. And you are the best you that you can ever be. You can't do another person as well as you can do you. Actors give it a good go, but they always have to come back to themselves. And I want you to compare you to you today. And compare you to yesterday, to last week, last month, last year. Who were you 10 years ago? You see, you're always growing, even when things do not feel like it. Always growing. And you can you can see each time that something didn't work in life how you wanted it to. You know, it wasn't going wrong. You've learned what doesn't work, and it changes life's direction. Therefore, It isn't wrong. It's, you've learned what you don't want. You no longer have to go in that way anymore. Find a new way. Find a way, a direction you do want to go in. Something that feels right, that feels more aligned, you know? And that's awesome. Like what happened to me when I caught my attention and felt that, oh, shift in my perception. I took a pause. I breathed. I moved. A funky, weird movement. And I shifted in my awareness. Movement really helps. You can do that power marching. That can be helpful, you know? And as you move throughout the week and you catch yourself being cross or frustrated at yourself or someone else, I invite you to just take a moment to pause. Practicing the art of pause before you speak. Just pause. Before you write, just pause. And before you do absolutely anything, pause and come back to the moment. It's so much clearer in this moment. Because here you can meet what there is. You can't meet what there is if you're somewhere that's not happened yet in the future, or if you're reliving your past. Use the gift of the past to enter into the present and go, okay, what can I learn today? How can I grow? Make a cup of tea, go for a walk, go to the loo, the toilet, the restroom, and allow yourself a sacred moment and to just breathe. Take whatever step is necessary. Ask yourself, am I safe right now? Have I got a moment to just, and do whatever it is that's necessary to honor your true self and your safety, because safety is so vital. And there are times in life where I've had to sit and think, am I safe? And I have to take myself out of the situation where I don't feel safe before I can address anything else. Thankfully, I've not had to live like that for a very long time now, thanks to self-awareness. If there is time, just a few moments, you can ask yourself, how can I take responsibility for me now in this moment? You can say, what is it I've got that can support this? And what do I need to change so I can regain my balance? Where is it that I'm off balance? The problem, the solution, like permaculture. How can I grow through this? If there isn't right time right away, the kindest thing you can do is there to be there. Just honor yourself, place your hand on your chest and go, this too belongs. Because it is your self-protection mechanism. Promise yourself you will come back later when you're able and readdress the balance. But for now, you acknowledge, you can feel, you sense, this is my self-protection mechanism. This is why I feel off. And right now I haven't got time, but I am going to come back to it later. It just takes a moment. And then you can take a conscious breath. It just means that you're aware of taking a deep breath and return to your day. My mum used to say, take a deep breath and count to 10. So there's nothing more important than honoring self-awareness, giving yourself space, because it's going to bring you home. Home is that place in ourselves. We can be homeless and still have our home in ourselves. And I know this, when we're at home and we know we belong here, it doesn't matter so much what happens in the outside world, because we know we're always home. It can sound impossible, believe me, I'm possible. And if I'm possible, you're possible, So the universe, life and nature exist in cycles. We know that. But it's always supporting you to come home to yourself, to return the balance, to grow and evolve and expand, to open up and make more space for a life better than you've ever imagined. Like, wow. And I'm going to share this affirmation, which I hinted on in our earlier part of the service. I'd rather be free than right. Now we can put our energy into being righteousness, or we can move through being in right relationship with ourselves. Right relationships with ourselves radiates out on its own to becoming in right relationship with one another, with life, with all life. We don't have to worry about what's out there when we come back to ourselves, you know? So do you want to argue about being right? Or do you want to come back where you're here to resonate with life and truth? We are all teachers now. We are all students of one another. Your power comes from staying centered. A true sovereign soul is centered, flowing through and as life. And so we say, I'd rather be free than right. So you know me and my rule of three. If you don't mind, just say it with me or say it in your head. I'd rather be free than right. And again, please, I'd rather be free than right. One more time. I'd rather be free than right. Absolutely. Now, if you can just remember that, repeating it throughout the week when you notice yourself being caught up in your knots. If you repeat it throughout the week, you slowly but surely, you are going to drop that righteousness. Return to center and reclaim your freedom. Little step at a time, nothing grandiose. Come back to center. Freedom where you can and will live peacefully, in love with life without betraying yourself, where you're free to be. Reclaim your power, people. Because true sovereignty, everyone's going on sovereign this, sovereign that, and it's like, come on now. True sovereignty is living in relationship with. It's not about power over. It's not about taking over the world and forcing your righteousness and your beliefs on anyone. It's being passive. It's waiting. It's being in relationship with what is. It's being that strong, solid center that's all that masculine energy that holds you, so your feminine energy can flow and dance and be with life and love life. You're honoring yourself. You're honoring what's true. You're honoring life, returning the sacred balance of holding and being held, of witnessing and being witnessed, remembering that sacred wisdom, remembering the sacred life and the sacredness of life. So join me as we continue to raise our frequency, because don't forget, you are sacred as I am sacred. We are sacred. Let's vibe with our Creative Roots tribe, honoring that sacredness as I speak these shared words for and on behalf of each and every single one of us. I am so grateful that right here, right now, that we are. I am so grateful that we are communicating and connecting through our global community. I am so grateful for right use of technology, so grateful for absolute intelligence. I am so grateful that we get to be here today together and share this sacred time. I am so grateful for this ancient wisdom and the presence from the past. And I am so grateful that we get to grow through life as life together. We are not separate, you know? And from this space and place of gratitude, I recognize that one unified field that unites us, that one ever-evolving energy that is life. That one stabilized presence that's never an absence, that one causation which evokes curiosity and creates and co-creates expansion and connectivity, that one cosmic goodness that returns balance always in all ways, that one cyclical nature that always leads us back to ourselves and returns us to source. And man, it's got some funny ways of doing it. And from this place and space of recognition, I see that one curious causation, this one cosmic goodness, connecting and creating as my life, connecting and creating as your life. It's an ever expanding energy that's a stabilized presence, evolving through and as my life, and evolving through and as your life. And in this unified field of existence, it's life returning back to itself as life. It's source returning back to itself as source. Always in cycles like that water cycle that we're well aware of. You know, it's always going round. Only that's more prominent. We see that life cycles in all ways, as you, as me, as we. And I stand here today fully convicted in this knowingness that if life has this curious cyclical nature, we do too. It is true that we, by our very birthright, are moving right now, right here, from betrayal to balance. We're recovering ourselves by being right here on this very planet. No, our circle is returning to reclaim and return to our stabilized, safe, sovereign selves to serve highest good. It's into and through communities we co-create, through and as our life in, interconnected through this unified field of awareness. We are returning right now from righteousness to right relationship with life, reuniting, re-remembering the compassionate space and place within each and every single one of us here. And because of this, I am so thankful. We no longer have to live in fear. And because of this, I am so thankful we can live in sacred service to and through one another, as life, serving life, in all ways, always. I speak these words as my truth today, as our truth today, releasing them and knowing our word is the living language of law. And so it is. And so it shall be. And so we are. Ashe, Aho, Amen. Did you know that we hold a circle? Creative Roots is running our live Reclaim Your Life community live on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Portuguese time, which is midday in USA time, I think Pacific time. That's why I don't write PT, because I don't want to confuse people. The info is on the link tree. The link's in our bio. If you go into link tree, click on join our meeting, and there we are. You know, it is free, but we are open to donations. So if you want to reclaim your life and join us in visioning a new life for yourself and the planet, you come on down, you're very welcome. There's no experience needed. We just taught you through a guided meditation. You can keep it to yourself or you can share. It's all welcome. We are all welcome here. We're all about inclusivity and diversity globally, you know, universally, cosmically. We're not just here on Sundays. No, we're here 7 days of the week. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We love hearing from you. If you want prayer, we are honored to pray for you. Drop us a message, you know, to support us. Don't forget to click the like button and share. Liking our stuff is really helpful. So love donations are very welcome through Linktree. We're going to bring this service to a close with this week's blessing. So today and every day, may you return your balance. May you rediscover your peace. May you remember your sacredness. May you reclaim your sovereign strength and stillness. This is my blessing for each and every one of you. Namaste. I'm honoring the sacredness, the light in you that is also within me. I love you. Have such a great week, people, and keep coming back to yourselves. It's the bravest thing. the most courageous thing you can ever do.